So how do we build a master production schedule? Well, it's not as difficult as you think, but it does take a little bit of time and effort. So we need to know some basic things, like our forecasted demand. We need to know actual customer orders because we're going to compare that to demand. We need to project our on-hand inventory. So what are we going to end each time period with? Are we doing this by day? Are we doing this by week? Are we doing this by month? So we need to know what our on-hand inventory is, the projected. And then we have our available to promise. So this is what we can still sell because it's not obligated to go to any customer yet. So then we have our master production schedule. So this is our production quantity delivered. This is what actually shows up and is available, or what we would take. We would fill customer orders, and then everything else would be available to promise. But then we also have our MPS start. So this is our quantity produced, but we have to also remember that even though we start producing it, it's not magically already inventory. We have to wait because there's lead time. We have to wait for the materials to be actually produced. So let's go ahead and try to fill out a basic master production table. So this is what one looks like. They can be a lot more complicated, but this is a rather simple one, and we're only looking at 6 weeks. So let's look at the office chair. So let's calculate our projected on-hand inventory. So here, we need to know that we have a batch size of 100, and that our lead time is 1 week, and our beginning inventory is 80. So we already have 80 office chairs produced. So when we look at our forecasted demand, that's already been filled in. It's 50 for the first 3 weeks and then 60 for the next 3 weeks. Our actual customer orders are entered, and then our projected on-hand inventory. So our first one for week 1 is 30. So we take our beginning inventory and subtract our forecasted demand, which would leave us 30. And then we would take the 30, subtract our forecast demand, and that would give us a negative 20, which is our projected on-hand inventory at that time. And then we would keep doing the same thing. So we would take the negative 20 for our projected on-hand inventory and subtract our forecasted demand. And now we're at negative 70. And we would keep doing this. So that is figuring out our projected on-hand inventory. However, these numbers will change because we're going to figure out our MPS, our master production schedule. So we've looked at it here, and based on our projected inventory, we're going to decide when and where we're going to start. So taking a look, we're going to start in week 1 producing 100 units because that's our batch size. But it's not going to be available until week 2. So the first 100 units will not be available until week 2. So we can't count those in week 1. So our projected on-hand inventory was a negative 20 for week 2 before this, but now we're adding 100 units and now it's at 80. So we have a positive number. But that 80 from week 2 for projected on-hand inventory, now we're going to subtract 50 from it, and now we're down to 30. For week 3 projected on-hand inventory. So we realize, because we've forecasted a demand of 60 for week 4, we're going to run out. So we need to start the production again. So in week 4, we're going to produce, or week 3, we're starting the production. At week 4, we're receiving the production, the inventory for 100 units. So at that time, we would subtract the 30 from the 100, and now we have 70. So you see how we play with the numbers, and we can figure out what we need to do. Now, taking a look at week 5, you see how that's down to 10. Well, does that mean that we need to start maybe another 100 production in week 6? Because week 7 is probably going to be a negative number. We only can tell. But what's our available to promise? We need to figure that out. Well, we have this formula that's on the bottom of the screen. So our available to promise for week 1 is our on-hand delivery plus our master production scheduled. So we can call this the delivered. And then we need to subtract from that the actual customer orders. So our on-hand inventory for week 1 was 80. That was a start. If you look at the top, it says our beginning inventory was 80. Well, we had 30 orders come in. So that's our customer orders. And we had nothing for MPS because there was nothing actually being delivered at that time. So we have 80 minus 30. We have 50. That's our available to promise. And we would keep moving down the row to get all the other ones using the same formula. So if we wanted to figure out week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, week 99, we could do that using this formula. So I hope you see that creating a master production schedule is not as difficult as it looks. It just takes time. And it doesn't hurt to have someone take a look to see if it's actually logical. You know, in the supply chain, it never hurts to ask somebody to get more information and make sure you did it right. So why don't we give this a shot? You know, try to do your own and think about an item that maybe you can forecast a demand or a company you worked for and see what you can do as an example here. So next we're going to talk about the requirements schedule. That's all the parts that go into this office chair that we were doing here. So we have the seat, the arms, the legs, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and do that one in our next video.